Hello, everyone. I just wanted to address you about something that I think is very important, a subject that I think is very relevant, and that is the times that we are living in. I think it's pretty evident that we're living in turbulent times. I've got to where I'm hardly looking at the news, because if you watch the news, it'll get you stirred up. Because you see so much that's negative and some things you just don't like. And that's okay. That's part of living in this sinful world and in this world that we live in that is corrupt and controlled by the devil. I wanted to speak to you not talking about these turbulent times. Just watch the news if you want to know what the turbulence is all about. I wanted to talk to you about how to have faith in the turbulent times. Because we are the people of God. We're people of faith, and we're called to trust God and to walk in faith during the turbulence. This is not the time where you allow the turbulence to diminish your faith or shipwreck your faith. But this is the time when you grab hold of your confidence in God and say, more than ever before, God, we need you. And I'm going to cling to you and know that you're going to bring me through this turbulent time. And so I just want to encourage you today to hold your faith, hold it tightly. Don't let go, don't give in. As a matter of fact, I'm here in my study, and I have been spending this morning studying about the time period of the prophet Malachi. Malachi is the last book of the Old Testament. He's a post-exilic prophet, which means that he prophesied after the children of Israel returned from the Babylonian captivity. And it's amazing that even though they returned to their homeland, to Palestine, that in a short amount of time, there was a pretty good segment of the population that grew careless and immoral, and the leadership was corrupt, and people weren't spiritual, and there were abuses. And there was a neglect of the widows and the orphans and people in need. And there was a neglect of the immigrants and the aliens who were coming into the country. There was an immigration problem. The marriages were failing and falling apart. It was a turbulent time and very unsettling. Some people stayed true to God, while other people grew careless and slack and eventually even shipwrecked their faith and became immoral. And Malachi's book is about how to have faith in turbulent times. Excuse me. And if we just look through the Bible at the times when Israel experienced turbulent times and where the people of God in the New Testament experienced turbulent times, there are certain things that they did. One, they prayed. And so if you're struggling today, get on your knees and talk to God, because that's how you can get the sense, the assurance that everything's going to be all right. Because if you take it to the Lord in prayer and you realize, now I'm doing something. I may not be able to change the turbulence around me in society or in America, but I can pray. And when you pray, it moves God, but it also affects us in a positive way. The second thing they always did is that they would praise and they would worship. Remember Paul and Silas in the jail at the midnight hour, they sang hymns to God. And when you praise, and I preached on this recently, when you magnify God, you make him bigger than your situation, and you realize, God's got this. And when you exalt him, you lift him up. He's superior. You say, you know what, as turbulent as things are in America, God's got this, and everything's going to be all right. The third thing they realized, and you would see this, you'll see this in the New Testament, is they would always talk about how God is in control, that God is in charge, that they would say, God is still on the throne. God is the great king. And that means something, because where it feels like strong powers are in control in this world or in America, and I'm not going to make a list, but just whatever those lists are, and it feels like they're so powerful that they can't be beaten. Listen, they're not all powerful. There's only one person who's all powerful, and that's God. And he's still in charge, and he's still in control. And as you praise and worship him and magnify him and exalt him, you'll realize God is greater. God is the king. God is in charge. God is still on the throne. Okay? Kings come and kings go. Kingdoms rise and kingdoms fall. The Bible talks about this. If you read in Daniel 4 the story about Nebuchadnezzar, he was this great king. He was the most powerful man in the world. He'd be the equivalent to the President of the United States. But he got cocky, and God touched him in such a way that he went insane, and he lost his kingdom for 7 years, and God humbled that man. And here's the reason why. God told him, he said, you think that you achieved all this, but he said, I gave you your kingdom. I can give it to you and I can take it away. And the point is, it doesn't matter who the president is or the prime minister of England or any other nation. God puts them in place and God takes them out. And if we have to trust, if we're going to trust God, then we have to say that whatever happens in the election or happens in America, that God is just orchestrating all this. There is an end game here. I remember talking to George Britt, who was a great prophecy preacher. And George Britt said one time, they think they're so powerful, these world leaders, including the president and the Congress. He said all they are pawns on a chessboard, and God is moving them. We are moving towards the end times quickly. And we are moving to a point to where Jesus Christ is going to come back and rapture the church and resurrect the righteous dead. And then there won't be anybody but evil people in this world. And the Antichrist will rise. And Europe will become the most dominant place in the world. And I don't know where America's going to be. I think the rapture will decimate America. I think it will put us to our knees. And we are quickly moving towards Europe. We're quickly moving towards a postmodern, post-Christian existence in this nation. And Europe is influencing us. And so that may be what's happening. I don't know. Okay? God's setting everything up for the end. But hey, listen, when the Antichrist comes, we're not going to be here. We're going to be in heaven. So though it may be tempting to be discouraged right now and to feel deflated or just feel like that wickedness is winning and righteousness is losing, don't lose hope. It's the opposite. God is working all this out. And just like the people of God in Egypt, God put the plagues on Egypt and the Egyptians suffered, but He protected the children of Israel. And God's going to protect you. He's going to protect your family. He's going to protect your finances. If we just keep serving Him, the last point is that I want to make is that they stayed true. They stayed faithful. Don't get slack. Don't get careless. Don't sin. Don't turn your back on God. These are the times when you get closer to God. Turbulent times, you don't run from God. You run to God. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I. And so be encouraged today. If you need to get on your knees and pray, if you need to sing and start praising the Lord, and if you need to just focus on the sovereignty of God, do these things today. And most of all, make up your mind that no matter what happens in this world, take this whole world, but give me Jesus. I'm going to live for Jesus no matter what happens, because there is no recourse. There is no recourse. There's only one answer. To whom shall we go? Jesus, you alone have the words of eternal life. We're going to stick it out with the Lord, and God is going to take us through. So you be encouraged today, okay?